following video is a response to someone who kept ignoring my responses and kept coming back with unrelated commentary instead of addressing things directly. This all started with a one-sentence drive-by literally a year ago, and the person coming by very recently to try to deal with this for whatever reason. Pro tip, turn off your notifications when you leave a comment somewhere if you have absolutely no intention of coming back. Here we go. I got to ask a bunch of questions and whatabouts instead of responding to the original statement, which I'll indicate in a minute. The current law definition for chattel, any movable personal property. This is opposed to a fixed, immovable real property like land. Now, where does this come from? Originally, it refers to a word source that goes through about 4 languages, really, but it just refers to if you own land, you can sell the land, but you can't physically take it with you to another location. You don't have to live on the land, but you can't take it with you. Now, some land has a designation that the land possesses all the animals and all the materials on it, versus under some systems, anything you create from it is yours to take when you leave, or to expend or keep, or use for another process. If I mine a mining claim, I don't have to leave the gold there. Okay? And these are separate items, derivational items. And depending on your philosophy, this may be a problem, but okay. This is derived through CHATEL and CHATTEL, old French words. Norman word for cattle, because that was one of the most primary things you'd have from property. A lot of people would leave a building on the property or not want it, but the cattle is something that would be considered definitively valuable enough to leave with. Leaving with water, you expend it. Cattle can keep being progressive. A collection of cows can be herded by a nomadic tribe, and they have all the property they need, maybe. Latin capitalis, C-A-P-I-T-A-L-I-S, for movable personal property, literally the same naming, is one of many senses for a word capital. You'll find conspiracy theorists misusing the words in Latin, Aramaic, Koine Greek, and Hebrew. If you got that reference, post it below. 300 BC to 380. People will misuse these words as much as they need to win a fucking argument in the comment section. Some in common law systems also used a shorthand for the word personal property as Personalty. It's like personality, only it's personalty. Like the word realty is a contraction of the word real property. This is personal property. Personalty versus realty. God, I hate this. Anyway, here we go. Aspirin is a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory derived. NSAID. People do the spelling all sorts of ways. It gains a vinegary smell as salicylic acid and acetic acid gradually hydrolyze to salicylicate and acetate. That should bother you. And it finally really goes bad, now these are rounded off numbers, about 5 years after the date at which the manufacturer says they can still guarantee potency, which is 3 years. So at 8 years past the manufacture date, it's considered to be breaking down on a chemical level. It's still lost potency in the process or not. The military and the Federal Drug Administration found that 90% of prescription and over-the-counter drugs that the U.S. military was hoarding at one time because they didn't have any choice because of budget cuts or redirections of money to build yet another gold-plated toilet for some general, they found the drugs were perfectly good up to 15 years after the expiration dates they had. A few can last 40 years. Aspirins were considered safe a max of 10 years after manufacture date, which is only a little different than the approximate 8 years that we have for the other statement. But because it's massively expensive for Bayer or any other company, to prove that it's good at the time, conducting a safety study for aspirin has never gone more than 4 years. Every time they make any formulation changes, they're required to do a new study. They're not going to do a study that presumes that they can do a 40-year shelf lifetime when they're changing the mix. But aspirin is also, again, an NSAID. NSAID. It's not replacing them or being replaced by them. And you can still buy it over the counter. Same thing. Mostly. Automotive exhaust, smokestacks, and most other soot sources, like coal-fired plants, produce soot. Soot from them, due to being exposed to oxygen, contains graphene, and graphene stacked on top of each other is called graphite. How do people prove in YouTube videos or Facebook postings or whatever that what they're finding in food, drink, or medications is graphene oxide? The answer is they don't. Just like coal-fired plants put out most of the mercury in the world that you might be affected by, but people somehow want to blame it on chemtrails. Chemtrails. An anti-vaxxer commissioned a study and got the result he wanted. Nope, he only got part way, but still used it. Use pictures on the internet of graphene oxide. Compare them to a vial I'm going to give you. Please understand that at 1% concentration in the solution, graphene oxide looks brown or dead black, or coffee colored. A mystery vial was supposed to have showed up and be tested, as commissioned by an anti-vaxxer. This vial was claimed afterwards to be 99.9% graphene oxide, which would only work if it was 99.9% not graphene oxide and being the other material, like saline solution. However, the person doing this commissioned work disclaimed the work at the time it was published in another language. You have to go dig it up. This result is non-conclusive. Any definitive identification of material in the sample requires spectrographic analysis, etc. It's just a descriptive study using a microscopic observation of the test sample based on a single unknown origin, non-traceable vial received by a courier and labeled various things. You can read below. University of Madrid. The guy's name doesn't end in Madrid, by the way, according to him. He put in his name, comma, Madrid, because he was specifying where he was as a shorthand. Now we're at the 7-minute and 22-second mark. I'm going to read the moving of goalposts argumentum that occurred. This is literally an argumentum. It's not a debate. This is somebody not responding to the first statement, which I'll repeat. The first statement was, the person looked under a video where I explained all this and ignored it. Posted a comment and said, well, there shouldn't be anything that looks like it. There shouldn't be anything in medication or food or water that looks like the organic compound graphite, because pieces of graphite is graphene. Actual graphite, not pencil lead. Graphite. Well, pencil lead mostly is graphite, but you'd have to look for real graphite. If you take a piece of tape to it and lift it off, you get graphene. And if you just expose it to oxygen at all, like in a fire, graphite forms naturally, and then graphene forms as well. Graphene oxide forms naturally. But it's not a naturally occurring thing. Yes, I know on a strictly scientific basis you can say that, except when any fire happens in a forest, it produces graphene oxide. God frackin' damn it. It's not naturally produced by plants. It's naturally produced by a natural process. Forest fires. Oh, by the way, there was a bunch of forest fires that year. Did anybody remember the hellscape? No, apparently everybody forgot it. Nothing in meds should look anything like resembling graphite oxide or graphene oxide, except that it will. It's also called ash. That's literally the term that's used. When they find graphite or graphene or any carbon materials that are unknown, they refer to it as ash when it's in your cat food. It's also listed in food. Hundreds of videos of random people showing graphene oxide in their food, drinks, and medications. And again, how? I like things that are organic because they contain carbon, until they contain carbon, in which case I flip my shit. Why did you do that? Again, you're moving the goalpost. No, actually just ignoring my responses. I have in my hand, as I write this reply, the the study I just talked about. Yeah, it's the one in the video. And he says, it's absolute indisputable proof, clearly shows conclusive comparison, except the person you're citing, which you cited his name incorrectly. That's not his damn name, so you've got a phonied up copy, or you're not reading it correctly. Cut and paste, please. He says you're wrong because his conclusion's different than yours. He doesn't say it's conclusive. He says it's inconclusive. Are you just ignoring it? Seems like it. Bayer replaced real aspirin with NAIDS, and that says it all. Evil. Bayer still sells aspirin. That was offered as an alternative because normal aspirin hurts people's stomachs. It does. It causes stomach upset. I had a Pfizer dosage, so you got vaccinated. I felt it moving from my arm across my back into my head. That's a very common complaint. A lot of people had that happen. After 4 years, my arm still hurts. Then you're a long COVID victim because of the reaction. You can qualify that way. I knew I'd been poisoned. That's not poisoning. I probably would have died. I almost died. No, you didn't. I had real salicylic acid from old 1940s canister, along with other medications on hand to thin my blood. Did you use Draculin? That's the actual name for it back then. Number one, you might have actually experienced a blood clot, and that would have saved your ass. Two, that's not poisoning, it's a blood clot. Sounds like you had a blood clot. Guess what else can cause a blood clot? Expired aspirin. Because it isn't aspirin anymore after 40 fucking years, because it's one of the few that's listed as not being able to last really even 8 years back then. The older stuff wasn't better than what we got now. I don't want to hear this shit. Let's move on. For starters, you have been capitalized by the law you did not read. This is a sovereign citizen claim that capitalization changes the meaning of things. And then they refer to a Latin word for capital, or capitis, and then misread the definition, and then won't listen when I... Latin motherfucker, do you speak it? I'm sorry. Do you speak Cone Greek? I don't. Nobody does. Well, actually, I have learned to speak Cone Greek because of religious nuts who misquote the goddamn Bible. I'm an atheist, and I'm telling you to stop misquoting the Bible. Welcome to my universe. Can we go back to the other timeline where I could be a snooty little bastard and just make fun of the stupid liberals? Now I have all of this other shit to deal with. I thought it was bad when people wouldn't shut up about UFOs. After examining all contractual agreement of society law, contractual agreements, subset, society, subset, law. Are you talking about social agreements and social contracts? I find 49% of mankind has agreed to such treatment as agreement to the denotation of pledge. I understand that you looked up the word pledge and you found a meaning of it that you didn't like. Or more accurately, you dug one up so you could have something to be offended by. If you work hard to be offended, I can't stop you. If you don't look up the denotation of the aforementioned word, why didn't you just put in the word pledge? There's not much point in continuing this discussion, except you keep coming back bringing up shit that has nothing to do with the central problem, which is the person you quoted about a medical study said it wasn't conclusive, and you say it is. You spent a year not researching. And then you bring back that you took expired medicine that probably made this worse. God was with me. Let me tell you something. I watched so many doctors lose honor and culling of man, and I'm disgusted to be part of the same species. Thousands of doctors did expose this evil, only to discredit or be killed. The day of the Lord is coming. Evil has no limits. Yada, 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 gone and on. Think carefully about what you value. Gold, dirt, mankind. Which is your family? Good day. I'm not going to talk to you anymore. I don't need to request your approval. How to lose respect in a discussion with WAP Tech. How to make me not respect you. You did not respond to this. You made a specific statement. I answered it. You did not respond to that. You brought up something unrelated. What the fuck has aspirin got to do with this? Literally nothing. And again, why did you do this? Why did you bother commenting? Your original commentary was basically that nothing in medication should look anything like carbon. So you want inorganic medicine. Okay. Go look up inorganic medications and go take them. Carbon snowflakes. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.